And we are live. A book and a breach with Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Right.
Tobias is not yet on.
We've been stood up, man. 60
But-
episodes almost. We finally got stood up. I would have thought this would have happened a lot sooner.
Yeah, I know, 20 or something.
That's all right. He's not the only one who stood us up. We have. We're just talking to ourselves right now. So if anybody sees this in the future, know that you are the first ones. Yay! May as well sit here and drink our beer, eh? I got a Land Shark Lager. What do you got?
I'm back to my favorite. I went to Kroger's again.
Some Killian's Red. Nice.
Mr. McKay.
How about
We're
that?
going to give Tobias a couple more minutes, but if not, we're going to send you an invitation to join us.
You up for that, Tim? We're just waiting. This is just dead air now. So if you're listening to us over anything that's not live or whatever, wondering what all this pausing is about, our guest hasn't shown up yet. So Tim McKay is online, and we are asking him if he would be willing to join us if our regularly scheduled guest doesn't show up in like the next 5 minutes.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you're not home, huh?
I know you might lose your status as most favored Canadian.
Man, it's going to be difficult.
And
So,
go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, well, we got nothing else. It looks like another Mike and Roe show. So what's your plan on this sun chasing, eclipse chasing thing that you're going to be doing, 2 weeks from now?
Next weekend, actually.
Next week, whatever.
So I can tell that you're enthused and you're going to be,
I'm working from home now, so I've lost all track of time.
So I am actually staying at an Airbnb in Henderson, Kentucky, which is across the river from the big, thriving city of Evansville, Indiana.
Uh-huh.
And I asked my brother, what's there to do in Evansville? And he's like, nothing. Watching grass grow is more exciting than going to Evansville.
Yeah, well, you'll be doing the cosmological version of watching grass grow.
Well, but see, I'm just on the edge of the eclipse path, so I'm actually going to drive to Carbondale, Illinois, which is right around the center line, because, who doesn't want to go to Illinois?
Everybody that's not from Illinois. I don't know. I've only driven through Illinois, which is a fine thing to do on a day,
As long as you keep going and you don't stop, yes.
Don't know that I've ever actually overnighted in Illinois. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
I have not. I've driven through Illinois several times, but yeah, I've never stopped. I've flown into Chicago and then left immediately.
Yes, absolutely. Well, not immediately, after like an interminable layover. Yeah. So, Tim, what's the problem, man? Why can't you join us? Are you at work or something? Here we are feeling all good about ourselves that we have all these people lined up and everything, and then this happens. But the good news, Michael, is just before the show started, I hit all the little buttons on Amazon, and the Sprite is being sent to a printer right now, and I'm going to get hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'll get my proof copy of the Sprite, and I have a photo of the cover up on Twitter. So nice. Yay, it's like really almost done, and now I can start on a brand new project before I get to book 4 of this series. I'll take a little break from that series and do something else for a bit. See, that's always exciting.
So in news, as we try to fill time.
Yep.
You remember Connor C.M. Kaplan, correct?
Yeah.
Did you see his post on Twitter?
I may have done. What was it?
I just saw a 17-year-old who said he was born in 2007.
Oh, yeah.
Is this how old people feel when I mentioned being a child in the early 2000s?
It's exactly like that. Wait until about another 10 years from now when he goes to input his birth date on one of those things online and he has to keep scrolling to find it. Yeah. That is like a kick in the nuts right there. It's like, come on, it wasn't that long. Yeah, it was a long time ago. Holy hell. Yeah.
I always tell people the 80s was 20 years ago. I don't care what the calendar says.
Right.
So,
yeah. Oh.
So I want to tell Tim, since he's here, that I finally looked on a map where Ottawa is, and I plotted out how long of a drive it is from Ottawa to Seattle, and it's 42 hours. Hey, Tobias has arrived.
It can't be 42 hours because it's only 41 from here.
Yeah, well, it's 42 from here. Hey, Tobias, sorry, we're talking about driving from Ottawa to Seattle because,
Because you weren't here. So,
How are you doing today, Tobias?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
We certainly can.
Good. I had some unexpected technical difficulties, so I'm really sorry about that.
Oh, no, that happens.
Yeah, I'm one of those Mac people, so always causes a problem.
We'll try not to hold it against you.
Mike doesn't even have an Apple phone.
Okay.
Apple.
Every time you text him, you get these horrible freaking green text boxes, Like,
Well, I made it.
Good. Well, Tim is welcoming you, even if we are not. Welcome to the show, Tobias.
Where are you calling from?
Yeah, where are you calling from?
I'm here in Virginia, down by the beach, Virginia Beach.
All right. Okay. We've got the east-west divide of Virginia covered then, don't we?
Hey, where are y'all at?
Mike's
I'm just south of Richmond.
and I'm out in Blacksburg.
Okay. Yeah, so we're all over the place.
Yeah.
In Virginia.
So tell us about your series. You have a second book that's coming out in about 6 weeks?
Yeah, so I keep pushing the date back, unfortunately.
Sounds like you're an author.
Yeah,
right.
I've had some things come up this year, unexpectedly. That's my excuse anyway. But so yeah, book number 2 of my projectionist series, which is doesn't really pigeonhole in a genre really closely, but I would call it an urban fantasy. It's book number 2 of a trilogy I'm working on. Book number 3 should be out by the end of this year.
What are the titles of those books?
So book number 1 is Grave Covenant, and book number 2 is actually have book 1 right here. Grave Covenant.
Nice. Okay.
Book number 2 is Dragon Apostle, which is going to be out in May, and then book number 3 is False Idol, which will be out by the end of the year.
So, and you have what, 1 or 2 novellas as well? Is that right?
So I have Winland Vale, which is the prequel to the trilogy I was just telling you about. There we go. So that's this book right here. It's about a 40,000 word novella.
And then your other work, is that an anthology or is that another novella?
So I also have a horror series I'm working on. I only have 1 book out right now. It's called Death Sketch. It's right here.
Full book.
My lighting is a little dark here, unfortunately.
I was going to say either all of your covers are really dark or your lighting is really dark.
Yeah, this is probably my first video ever, so learning experience.
Oh, wow.
Here. Yeah, I haven't done much.
We have a virgin on the show. Yay!
We are so sorry that your first taste is us, but
it's only up from here, man.
I'm a little nervous, so be gentle.
Sky's the limit. It's all upward trajectory. Some people work their lives to get to rock bottom. You are starting out there.
Yeah.
Ooh. So how have you been where did we meet now? At MarsCon? Yes.
Yeah, MarsCon. That was my second time at that event. So I've done a few live events, just not much video.
Have you done any more live events since January?
So I've done it's called a locals market here close by in Norfolk, Virginia, which is it's actually a pretty cool venue downtown where people just stop by and there's vendors set up. So I did that around Christmas time. Mm-hmm. They had some Christmas decor up and stuff. And I shared a table with a friend of mine who's also an author. And then I did that again in, I think it was February. Actually, it might have been January, but yeah, so I've done that, and that's about it so far.
Can I see the cover one more time for Winland Dale?
Yeah.
Okay. I think, yes, that's the one. Is that the one? Where is the one with your co-author?
Oh, that's Death Sketch. My co-author is doing the horror stuff.
Okay.
Here's my fancy lighting. How is that better?
And who is your co-author?
So my co-author, it's kind of a secret. His name's Oliver Shade. So let me give him the spotlight. So he's actually my son.
All right, nice.
And he is 11 years old. And he really likes horror, of course.
Of course he does.
So we're working on a horror series together. We have 10 stories mapped out. This is just really the first half of the first one. But they're all going to be short fiction, novella length.
Jesus,
and
Mike,
they're,
can you imagine having your name on a book at 11 years old?
I know.
Right?
I know, pretty awesome, right? He must have a cool dad, right?
When he's your age, he's gonna have like 50.
Yeah. So anyway, they're pretty clean as far as horror goes. It's not like I'm pulling out your spleen and eating it sort of stuff. Although that might be down the pipeline when he turns 12 or something. But there's definitely like adult time, and it's more focused on suspense, which I like anyway. So
your main trilogy, what's the selling proposition on that? I mean, what's it about?
So tough question. Let me start from the beginning. I guess when I first conceptualized this, I always start with an image. I get like an image in my head of something, and it just kind of I kind of build a story around it. So I don't know if you all have ever seen the movie Dark City, which is like a sci-fi horror with Kiefer Sutherland, with aliens and so forth. So the image in my head was kind of that kind of vibe. So it turned from a sci-fi horror sort of story into like this urban fantasy. So it just completely morphed into something totally different. But the premise is the original premise was in an urban setting. There's these shape-shifting creatures that they're not like your typical human shapeshifter. They're like insectile shapeshifters, and they're hanging out in this strip club. So they're like strippers. And then they're feeding on the patrons. So it was very sci-fi, not loosely sci-fi horror, very dark. But it morphed into this dark fantasy thing because dragons started appearing in the story, and then like just a bunch of other things in the trilogy. I don't even know how many creatures are in the trilogy, but there's a lot. And it's turned into very character driven. It started out as one character, but now it's focused on three characters that their plots interweave throughout the trilogy. So it's not episodic at all. It's one long narrative, and each of the characters has a conclusion and their own wants and needs and all that. And they're all very different. One of them's a shapeshifter, one of them's a human, and the other one is also a human, but like a young girl. She's a bit of a cliche. She's kind of the badass Arya Stark girl, but I like her anyway. But I'm kind of rambling a bit. So
if you're strong female, you've got dragons, you've got shapeshifters, you've got horror. I think you've checked all the boxes, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've also got some boxing in there, which is kind of, so it's not a Rocky story, but the protagonist is a fighter. A reluctant boxer, I guess I would say, but that's kind of an absurdist point in the story because the opponents there's a boxing match in each story in the trilogy, and there's one opponent in each one, and the characters kind of fall into the story as well, and they're absurd characters. They're like over the top kind of caricature type of opponents, and those kind of came out of the blue too. That was not in the original plan. But I don't really typically tell people about that because they're like, so it's a Rocky story. Like, no, it just has some boxing matches in there.
So how'd you get started writing then?
How did I get started writing the story, or just in general?
In general.
When I was a kid, I always wanted to be a writer. I love to read. I'm very escapist. I can really get into the story and just picture myself there. I'm very visual. This is, like I said, I like to kind of alluded to earlier. But I kind of just let it fall by the wayside, and I focused on getting a job that could pay the bills, and just it kind of slipped away from me completely until one day. And I did do a little bit of writing back then, but nothing serious, and I'm sure it was awful. But one day at work, like 5 years ago, maybe, someone was like, "Hey, I'm reading this book," and I hadn't read a book in like 10 years. I completely stopped reading, like fiction. And he was all excited about it. It was like, it kind of brought me back into it. He was like, "You should really read this." I don't remember what the book was, but it just like, it flipped a switch in me. Like, it really flipped a switch in me. And so I was just like, I'm going to write now. And so I started doing it then. I started listening to like podcasts on writing and all this self-publishing. I was like, oh, I'm definitely not self-publishing. Those guys are losers. That's just what people do when they can't make it or whatever. But then, the more I was like, oh, people are actually making a decent argument for that self-publishing thing. So maybe, so I just started learning a lot about it, and I joined a couple critique groups and wrote a couple short stories and got it torn apart, and was like learning a bunch about like the basics, like what's a filter word, just very basic stuff I didn't really know. And I have a ton of story ideas that are just overflowing. I'm overflowing with them to the point where I'm very frustrated with myself always.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm like a tortoise at actually writing.
Yep. You sound like an author.
But the ideas pop off left and right. I've never had writer's block. I just have tortoise writing plague.
Now, even if you just tortoise write it, you still get it written faster than a lot of people who just don't. So you mentioned podcasts, and I kind of like podcasts, but which ones do you listen to?
So I listened to, not really a ton, honestly, but I did listen to almost all of Writing Excuses with Brandon Sanderson and Mary Robinette Kowal and others. I've listened to a bunch of marketing ones, Tim Grawl and the Story Grid podcast. There was this one really embarrassing one with Tim Grawl where he actually wrote a story on the podcast, and there was like another person on the podcast just reading it live and just telling him how bad it was.
Yeah.
It was just like, man, why would anybody do this?
Content, baby.
That's what listeners need is acerbic comments.
There is a podcast, and I forget the exact name of it, and I'm sorry for even bringing it up, not knowing the exact name of it, but it's something like all the shit you needed to know about writing or something like that. I have to look it up now. It's not too bad. It's kind of interesting, actually. Take it away, Michael, while I look at my phone.
Okay, I'm going to ask you my new favorite question I ask everyone. And do you kill off any bosses in your books? Old bosses of yours?
I haven't really killed off anyone in real life yet. Like, I haven't really associated a character with a real life person, at least consciously. I'm sure I probably have, actually. But I don't know. I don't know if I have. So no, I guess I haven't. But
have you based characters off of, at least parts of personalities of other people, whether you're liking them or not?
To be honest, I'm very subconscious with it. I don't really know. I think that I think it's in the cards though for the future. I see some death for some people.
You've never killed one of your characters?
No, I mean, I've never associated with real life people and then.
I see.
I think it's all subconscious. Who I'm associating my characters with.
Oh, as Tim says, you're missing out.
I'm sure I am.
So yeah, I'm going to have a bad guy named Tim McKay in my next book, and he's going to die horribly.
It'll be vicious. What are you drinking there, Tobias? Is it Tobias or Tobias?
It's Tobias. Stone
What's that?
IPA.
Oh,
Oh, that's one of them there craft beers.
Yeah, that's the West Coasters. I kind of got addicted to the IPA. Some people hate them, but they're like crack to me. Good analogy.
oh. So,
Go ahead.
oh, I was going to say, so this book is coming out in May. Your new
Book number 2
Yeah.
of the Projectionist. Yep.
Have you started working on the next book, or are you still trying to finish off book 2?
So book 2 is in revision. I'm at the very end of revision. So it's very close to being able to send out to ARC readers and beta readers. And then book 3 is completely mapped out but unwritten. I'm not a pantser. I have my ending is usually where I start. Like I said, that I get that image, and that's kind of what I latch onto. And a lot of times that's a key part of the story, if not the ending. I don't think I could ever be a pantser.
Are you one of those psychotic writers who writes a scene here and then a scene there and then a scene there and then freaking puzzles it all together into a book and a coherent story? Or do you still write linearly even though you plot it out?
I definitely write linearly. Yeah, I can't. I don't like to jump around. I mean, I'm a freak about that. I can't even flip to the end towards the end of a book if I'm reading it. If someone tells me a spoiler for a movie, I'll punch them in the face. Like I'm a freak about that, front to back with everything.
Well, what movies haven't you seen yet that you want to see?
I haven't seen anything. So.
Yeah.
You don't want to see anything? There's nothing out there that's.
Rose offering to ruin it for you.
I know.
Save you $15 is what I'm offering to do.
I'm seeing right through this.
Depends what movie you want to see.
Well, I will say I haven't read The Three Body Problem, and I do want to watch that.
Mike and I were talking about that before you came on. I just finished episode 3 of that about 5 minutes before I came on with Mike. And yeah, you will not be disappointed in that. Well, I mean, maybe you will. I don't know. It takes all kinds, but I think it's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I think it's getting pretty good reviews.
So I always tell the story that when I was a teenager, my brother was reading a book, and he knew I had read it. So he's like, "Is it a good book?" And I said, "Oh yeah, but so and so dies at the end." And he threw the book at me, and to this day, he has not read that book. And every Thanksgiving and Christmas, he brings it up that I ruined that series for him by telling him how book 5 ended.
That would be me. I would throw that book at you.
Yeah.
And he always tries to do the same to me, but I don't care. I mean, I pretty much know how fantasy books are going to end. I kind of know how sci-fi books are going to end. So telling me the ending is not telling me anything revolutionary. I'm like, I'm doing it for the journey. So you can tell me the end. I don't care. So he's tried many times to get even. And I'm just like, okay, fine.
Yeah, we're different.
And even if that wasn't true, I would still shrug my shoulders and say that because I can't let him have a win.
I know a lot of people like that though. They don't really care. I don't know why I care so much, but I do.
Yeah, it's just one of those things you know, some people are really bothered by knowing the end of a movie, right? Some people are really bothered by people talking in a theater or whatever it is. I know every time I sit down in the house here and try to watch a movie, my daughter comes down and just starts talking, right? And she's 17. So, you know, it tends to go on a bit. And then I'll have to make the big kind of, you know, but then she's also old enough to go, I'll be gone to college soon and you'll miss this.
True.
You suck. Who does your covers, Tobias?
Different people. I'm not loyal at all.
Not even within the same series?
No, definitely within the same series. So Jeff Brown did the Projectionist series. Death Sketch I'm actually using, or the Nightmare series, the horror series I'm working on I'm using Miblart. which is a lot less expensive.
Yeah.
But I'm getting my own pictures and sending it to them because I don't trust anybody. Like I'll be like, I'm very specific with my emails too. It's like, you better make it like this with this. Don't do that. Do this. Don't use that color, and do that. I'm just very specific with it.
You know what, though? I think most people who are in that kind of field would rather that you be specific
Yep.
than be unspecific and then want change after change after change. Right?
Right.
I mean, if you just say, have at it, knock yourself out, have fun with it, and then accept it, great. Or be very specific about what you want. But yeah, being the other way is just super annoying. I equate it to worked as a bartender in England a long time ago. And English people, when they go to a bar, they'll come up and they'll say, I'd like a rum and Coke, right? So you mix the rum and Coke and you hand it to them. And they go, yeah, I'd like one of these. And you mix it up and you hand it to them. And it's like, dude, give me your whole freaking list. Tell me what you want, right? Because Americans will just come up and I want 3 of these and 2 of those and 4 of those, right? You just make them. But yeah, they're trying not to be rude, but it's like, Jesus, just get on with it, man. And I think it's probably the same way. And I think I've driven that analogy into the ground. So I'm going to drink now.
Yeah, I agree. It also depends on who the artist is. Like if it's someone that I'm paying more and I know that they're just a badass and I could never tell them anything better than what they would do, I'll just let them run with it.
Yeah, right.
Jeff Brown is one of those guys. Miblart, I'm not sure what they're going to do.
Mm.
So I'm going to give them guidance.
So I interviewed my cover artist last weekend. And I told him, I was like, I'm very specific about my character looks like this. They have to have this color eyes, their hair is this color, they're this tall. And then I'll be like, and make it a medieval coastal town background. And that's all I tell them. I'm like, because I've described the character, so they have to look like I described them. But he is so much better like doing the stuff if I try to tell him. Because I tend to have like, okay, I want 5 people all standing in a row in a line. And he's like, no, that doesn't show any movement, or it's like a lineup, like it's a police lineup or something. He's like, if we do it at this angle, you can have some inferred action. And I'm like, wow, it's almost like you know more about this stuff than me.
About that. You know your job.
So I just try to tell him this has to be, and then go wild on the rest. And maybe I'll tell him to make one change, but typically I'm like, nope, perfect, first try. Great.
You know what though? I mean, the representation on your book cover doesn't need to exactly match.
Yes, it does.
The person or a scene within the book.
Yes, it does.
I used to think that too, and it's like, no, it really, really doesn't. Like,
So
it needs to evoke a scene in the book, right, or something like that. It can't just be some random shit, right? You can't have a picture of Thomas the Tank Engine on your fantasy story thing where there's no Thomas the Tank Engine, but it doesn't need to be specific to a scene, right? I mean, you've seen movie trailers, right, where you go in and go, well, where's that part of the trailer that I saw that's not in the movie, right?
Well, they're dead to me if they do that.
yeah, no, I actually agree with that. That's actually
wait a minute. You agree with what? Which do you agree with?
I was saying I agree with you.
Okay, good. That's fine.
Boo.
I mean, because that's what Jeff Brown told me is like, because I wanted him to do a scene from the book. I was like, this is an awesome scene. We're gonna make the cover of this. He's like, no, we don't do scenes. You want to do something that's gonna evoke the emotion of that genre, and get people to buy it that would enjoy your story. He's like, don't do a scene from the story.
I've been told many, many times that very same thing, and I don't care. It's my book. We're doing a scene.
I like scenes, too. So I don't know. I think bottom line is, if you like your cover, then
right. You just want good art. At the end of the day, you just want something that looks good and is going to grab people's attention.
Right.
And hopefully it will matter. Tim is saying, joking aside, I want to be flexible, but I worry about not giving my illustrators enough detail because you don't want the visual to clash with the reader's imagination. Yeah, I get that. But sometimes I think as a reader, I like what my imagination is producing better. So, I don't know. It's like knowing a lot about almost anything before you go into it. It kind of almost preconceives what you're thinking about that thing. Whereas if you have that wiggle room, you can kind of find your own way. And then you can look at the cover, the illustration, and go, okay, I can see where they went, but that's still not how I'm thinking to that person. Unless you're like Vampirella or something, that you want that just like that. Comic books, I guess, in general.
So I will tell you, guy that I was at, where was I at? Lexington Comic-Con. One of the artists there, he had all of his characters. There's 6 of them in the book, all of them drawn separately, and he put them all on bookmarks. So, you could collect the whole set. If you bought the book, he'd give you all 6 of them. And I like that idea because I'm an idiot that likes to, have more free stuff to give people. So I actually started talking to Dimitri, and he's going to do a scene with 2 characters in per scene. And I just said, now the characters can't overlap at all, because that way I can, crop these and I can put these on bookmarks. But if they overlap, then I'll have, somebody's hand and somebody else's. So, and he's like, well, I'll just give you the people separate from the background, and you can place them wherever you want. So now I'll have all kinds of I'll have 30 bookmarks row at my table.
So
This is how not to do it, by the way.
You may not sell any books, but by God, you'll give stuff away. What do you have? What's your table setup look like, Tobias? Do you keep it pretty plain, or do you go in for all this jazz like Mike has with his little toothpick swords and everything that he gives to people?
No, I think Mike's on top of the game. I was impressed by what he had going on at MarsCon. Honestly, I'm still working on it, I guess. I thought it was okay until I saw Mike's setup.
Well, I mean, when he starts wrapping up books and maps with wax seals, Jesus, you got to give him up for that. Absolutely.
I haven't even made hardcovers yet. He's made hardcovers and wrapped them in maps. And that sword toothpick.
Do you publish through KDP?
I do, yeah.
Okay, I mean, you could just make a hardcover in that. That's simple.
Yeah, I just haven't done that yet. Taking a step by step. But yeah, I mean, I guess my table setup is just like I didn't even have book stands until this year. I just got those so I can actually set my books up. But I do have a poster that I had illustrated that I think is pretty good. Yeah, unfortunately I don't have it out right now, but it's a dragon from Winland Vale that I had an artist do that I met on Twitter. But other than that, pretty basic.
What's your day job looking like?
So I work in healthcare consulting, so it's nothing like what I do with writing, which I think helps me.
Right, absolutely. Because
then I can just unleash the creativity when I'm writing and unleash the boredom during the day.
If your mind starts to wander, it has somewhere to go at least.
Yeah.
Start kind of thinking about things. Yeah.
So I have a question for you, Tobias. In my series, when I wrote the first book, I said, you know what, this is just going to be humans. I'm not going to do all the dwarves and elves and everything else. And hell no to dragons. You don't need to have dragons in fantasy. It's overdone. The second book I wrote had a centaur on the cover. So you can see that didn't last long. And I got tired of people asking me, is there a dragon in your series? So this last book I put out, I had a different cover. I'm like, no, we're putting a dragon on the cover. I wrote a novella with a dragon in it just so I can put this on the cover. So people will stop asking me, and hopefully they'll just buy my books and assume that there's dragons everywhere and not just one novella in the fourth book.
They're going to be pissed when they have to get to 4 books before they find a dragon.
Yeah, well, I also had a woman who's told me how she loves Sarah J. Maas and would she like my books? And I just said, yes.
That's always the right answer. Yes.
And she bought all 4. So
wow.
Somebody asks if you're a god, you say yes.
So did you have dragons planned in your series all along, or did you have an epiphany like I did?
No, honestly, I had the same impression. Like dragons are a bit overdone. I love dragons. I love Tolkien. Smaug is like my favorite. I love Smaug. And I love George R. R. Martin's dragons. I love the dragons from House of the Dragon show. I thought they were great. But I didn't. That's not kind of dragons didn't fit in with shape-shifting strippers. So
I don't know. You can shoehorn them in there somewhere.
I mean, you can fit dragons.
There's
wherever
a
you want,
sentence I didn't expect to hear.
It's right. It's just
it's a bit of a leap from shape-shifting strippers to dragons, so it just wasn't in the cards. And then it just kind of happened. I don't know. It's kind of like a pregnancy. I don't know. So no, I did not have a dragon planned or any of the other creatures that emerged. But I'm also pretty new at this, so maybe I need to control myself better.
When did your first book come out?
My first book came out in the very end of 2022, which was Woodman Bale.
Yeah, you are, and you've got 3 books out already.
I have 3. May will be my 4th. Yes.
So I just have to say for our crew here watching that El Montague is trying something different. He claims I ban him at the 30-minute mark every show, so this time he doesn't show up until after 30 minutes.
Right.
I see what you're doing, El Montague.
And it says something about our age disparity when you say that quote is from me, and actually I think it was who the hell was it? Was it Peter Venkman from Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters?
Oh, I haven't seen that in
if
30
someone
years.
asked you if you are a god, you say yes.
Have you seen the new Ghostbusters?
The very new one,
Yeah.
or the one from like 2 years ago?
Either.
The one from 2 years ago, like the reboot kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was the feminized Ghostbusters,
Right.
which was kind of awful.
Yes.
I mean, they had good people in it, right? But the story wasn't good.
Yeah.
And there was the new Ghostbusters with Paul Rudd. I did see the first one of that. It was all right. I haven't seen the Frozen Empire. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen the newest one. My kids saw it and loved it. I saw the one from, I guess you said 2 years ago. The one before it. I thought that was pretty good. I enjoyed that one.
It wasn't too bad. Yeah.
So how many Ghostbuster movies are there now? Because I have seen 1.
Well, there were 2 in the 80s.
I saw
2 or 3 in the 80s.
God, did I see the second one in the 80s? I saw the first one. I don't know if I saw anything after that. I just remember Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yeah, I think there may have been 3. I'm not sure. So I'm going to have to go check this out now.
I thought there was Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2 back in the day.
Back in the day, bro.
All right. 1984, 1989, 2016, 2021, 2024. So 2 originals, 1 piece of shit, and the 2 new ones.
Tell us what you really think, bro. Don't hold back.
That 3rd one was the Voyager of Ghostbusters. Okay? We'll just leave it there, shall we?
So, Tobias, are you a Star Trek fan?
I like Star Trek, but I'm not like, it's not my thing. It's not my, people that are like Star Trek fans are like really, really Star Trek fans. I'm not really a Trekkie, but I appreciate it. I like it. But there's a lot of it I haven't seen. So
There's a lot of it you don't need to see.
Trekkie.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of Trek you don't need to see.
A few shows ago, Ro decided to aggravate our huge audience base of 4 people by saying that Voyager was just a hot garbage mess.
And I backed it up on Monday's show with 6 different websites that also say it's a hot mess. So it's not just me.
See, even the Canadians are wondering now if we're going to make this a per episode thing that we must talk about Voyager.
I just wanted to put it in context. That's all.
Okay.
If you bring the controversy, you might bring a little bit of crowd. So
I don't want the controversy crowd.
it works for some people.
Yeah.
So when is your next horror book coming out? Do you have a timeline for that?
I do. It's coming out this year, but I'm not exactly sure what month It's coming
Before
out
or after book 3?
after book 3. Yeah, I've been kind of weighing that back and forth. Should I do book 2 in the horror series before I do book 3? But I kind of want to get this trilogy behind me, so I can just have it complete. Because, like I said, I have so many other things I want to write. I did take a pit stop to submit to an anthology too.
Yep.
The Key of Toll from MarsCon. I submitted to that.
So will you be trying to join, have the 32 seconds to join Spiffbo this year?
I am trying to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So funny you said that. I was actually just looking that up like 2 days ago because I think last year I looked into it briefly and it was like, oh, everything's due tomorrow. And my book was released like a week after that or something. It's like, well, so let me look for next year. And then I was reading up on, people were like, oh, it filled up in like 30 minutes or whatever it was.
41.
Yeah, 41 minutes. I was like, oh, it doesn't sound good. So yeah, I'm hoping to do it.
The bets are being taken this year that it will probably be under 10 minutes.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out what's the best place to be on that day. Like,
I think sending a check to the people who run it will probably be a really good place to start.
So, Tobias, let me tell you, the day before, he'll put out the form saying, this is the form you're going to have to fill out tomorrow when it goes live. Take that form, have all your answers, put it in a Word document, and then at 8 a.m. when it goes live, just cut, paste, cut, paste. I did it in under 30 seconds, and I was the 15th person who got in. And like I said, 41 minutes. And if you look at, they had a trend, like they showed the graph where it's like, 2 weeks, 2 days, and it just kept going down and down. And they're like, you'll have plenty of time. Don't worry about it. I'm like, no, you will not. I mean, the year before, I think it took 4 hours. And they're like, you don't have to get up early for this. Don't worry about it. I'm like, I don't know what planet you're on. If you look at that slope, it's just going down.
And if you look at the proliferation of nonces like us with these type of shows who are grabbing up all the Spiffbo finalists and everything, I think it's just the word has gotten out there so much more that it's going to it doesn't really torment me, man. It just sucks. It torments me no more than horrible beer or whatever, because I just don't have to watch it, right? It's not like I'm stuck on an airplane watching it.
So I think my next book, I'm going to have a character inspired by Janeway be my main character.
You're going to have a suck-ass character as your main person? That's a bold way to go.
And my line editor will love it.
That's a bold move.
Well, I've got a lot of complaints about Grommy as my main character, so why
You got
not?
a lot of what about Grommy?
Complaints about Grommy.
Really?
Yeah.
He's kind of Luke Skywalker annoying, in that way that so many young protagonists are. It's like, oh, I don't want. It's like, oh, shut up and do the thing, But he's not bad. Do you have characters like that, Tobias? Do you got anybody that readers just really violently want to kick in the shin?
I don't really think my characters are too annoying, honestly. But I am. I make up for it. I don't think so. Yeah. I honestly don't think, because I think I get annoyed writing characters that are annoying. And then
it can be until it's fun, right? Let me ask you this. Do you watch those horrible Christmas movies that are on like Hallmark Channel and things like that?
I definitely do not watch those.
Well, you should, because they're fun.
My wife does that.
Okay. So yeah, Clark Kent's super whiny. There's a parody of one of those movies out right now on Tubi, Tubi, called Cup of Cheer. And it's a straight up parody of bad Christmas movies, and it's freaking hilarious. Yeah, there is some foul language, more than I thought there would be, which is none, but there is some foul language, and there's some scatological humor later on. So it was obviously written by a bunch of frat guys or something who were getting progressively more drunk as they wrote it. I mean, you could almost see it happening, but it's still funny and it's worth watching. So it could just be one of those type of things, right? It doesn't have to be taken that seriously all the time.
Cup of cheer, is that what you said?
Cup of cheer, yeah. Have
Where
your wife
can I
watch
find
it.
that
You'll be happy. Just make sure your son's in bed.
at? Okay.
So, Ro, I want to let you know I am making a list of all the shows that you hate.
I don't hate Smallville. I've just never watched it.
Oh.
I'm not a Superman fan. Superman's way too OP.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just he's boring. He's just a boring ass character. I've never understood why people like him. Like why people like the Yankees. It's like why?
I never watched Smallville either. And I'm not trying to kiss Ro's ass, but I kind of feel the same way about Superman. He's like, no one can fuck with that guy. Except for Kryptonite, which, I mean, how readily available is that? I don't know.
Instead of hiding your identity, why don't you hide the fact that you're allergic to kryptonite? That would probably be a better idea.
Yeah.
And a pair of glasses? Come on.
I've always found Superman to be boring.
Oh, wait a minute. Ro's going away. Hi, guys. What's up? Come on.
I don't recognize you anymore.
Just tell me do that. Yeah, that's true. He was.
That being said, I do like the Superman movies, but
yeah, I mean, even the cheesy ones with Christopher Reeve, and because now because of Christopher Reeve, you got to kind of. But sometimes that cheese works, right?
I remember the comic book where he died. I was like, "Oh shit! Someone killed Superman. This is amazing."
He was dead for like 2 months.
Doomsday, and then they had like what 3 new Supermans. I'm like, "What is this shit?" And then I stopped reading it.
So, Ro, what is your guess for over/under on when David Jones starts harassing us for not having our newsletters in the comments?
Oh, well, now that you said it, I'd say about 30 seconds. We have our guests newsletter in the comments, David. That's what we're here for, ostensibly.
Yes. And you can get the first book on Amazon, or you can read it for free on Kindle Unlimited. See, we do promote some people's works, just not our own.
Yeah. Let's face it, you guys wouldn't come and listen to us if we just talked about our own shit all day.
So
Tobias, how long are your books?
My benchmark is 100,000 words for novels.
Yeah. Is that your horror though? That is not 100,000, is it?
Not even close. So my first one's only 10,000.
Oh.
But I've since decided that's way too short. That's like a mutant short story.
That's a good take a dump book.
Yeah. So I'm bumping up those to 25,000 words for each one. But yeah, 100,000 words is good. Works for me. I'm not really I don't really like books that are super thick. I don't know.
Yep.
It's not really my thing.
Preaching to the choir.
Are you one of those sick buggers who like writes 150,000 words and chops 50,000 out of it to get to where you want it to be?
Absolutely not. If that was going to happen, then it wouldn't make it into my outline.
Good man.
So how closely do you follow your outline?
So it's not rigid at all. I give it room to breathe. I definitely believe in if you have an idea and it excites you, mix it up, change it up, put it in there. But I have to have a skeleton to my story, or else I'm just like not happy. I'm not going to sit down and just write, because then I don't have time for that. I'm just way too scatterbrained for that.
You've never tried it though?
Not really. So I don't even, writing prompts. You're like, oh, yeah, do this writing prompt, do that writing prompt. I'm like, no, where's it going? Not without a,
That's kind of fun.
I don't want to waste my words,
I used to have a Patreon account, and what I did once a week, something like that, is I would go onto this writing prompt site, pull up a random sentence writing prompt, and then write for an hour just on that. So sometimes it would be a complete story. More often than not, it wouldn't be. But it was all based on that one little sentence. and it's a fun exercise if nothing else.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think I would enjoy doing that, but I feel like I'm so far behind already on my 50 stories that I have that I want to write.
Is your publisher calling you up and telling you that your draft is due?
My publisher, as in me, is
correct. Your publisher, as in you. So you've got no deadlines, man. You're a young man. You still have you don't have any gray hair yet. Just have a sip of beer, sit back, relax. You got time.
True.
It's practice like anything else. The doctors that you consult with, do you want them just to jump in, or do you want them to practice on some other portion?
I feel like I do practice. Like I said, I'm in critique groups and I submit short stories and have them torn apart. But I just don't like. I just like focusing on a story that I'm excited about. But I mean, I think it's a good idea to do what you're saying. I should probably do more of it.
Tobias, Ro is a Sith Lord, and he's trying to turn you to the dark side and make you a pantser. Don't listen to him.
Oh no, there's no chance of it. So
it's where your characters go to die, and it surprises you when it happens.
I'm Jedi all the way with that. So on the superhero topic, though, I'm a big Daredevil fan. I like him because he's a superhero, but he's blind. I like that contradiction. So it's the complete total opposite of Superman.
Yeah, Batman is okay as a meme, really. But, and I just put it on the thing here, the best superhero movie line ever is when the Flash said, "You got one of those magic beer mugs. It just keeps getting full again." It's not what the Flash said. It's just what I saw Tobias lift up his mug.
Oh, this happens to me a lot. I don't know how.
Outstanding. Well done.
I think it's part of my outline.
So Flash says, "What's your superpower?" And Bruce Wayne says, "I'm rich." That's the best superhero line ever, because that's really his only power, right? He's like Tony Stark. I'm just rich enough to have made all this cool shit. I've got nothing else going for me. You put me naked in the middle of the desert, I'm screwed.
So the last Batman movie I saw was when Jack Nicholson was the Joker.
Dude, that was like 1986.
Yeah.
There have been 12 retellings of how Bruce Wayne's parents died since.
Oh my God! Almost as many as Uncle Ben retellings and Spider-Man.
Exactly. Yeah. But there have actually been a couple of decent Batman movies amidst all of that nonsense. Batman Begins is probably really good. What's unacceptable, Tim? What's the matter with you, man? 89. Sorry, David. Not 86, 89.
Man, David is here to keep us on our toes.
The font of all knowledge.
So, Tobias, what do you read a lot? Do you have time to read?
I do read. I feel like it's mandatory. I feel like reading is mandatory as a writer. I'm one of those people. So I read, right now I'm reading H.P. Lovecraft because I haven't really read a lot of his stuff. And because I'm writing horror, I should probably read H.P. Lovecraft. I've read a ton of Stephen King, so I've got that box checked. But and I've read some Poe, but I haven't read much Lovecraft. So I'm reading those right now, which I'm really enjoying. And I'm really enjoying his old style prose, which isn't obviously the modern writing, which is very frowned upon these days. Which I don't really like that, honestly. But
what's frowned upon?
Just times have changed, and just the lengthy. I don't really know how to explain it other than I guess it would be called purple writing, purple prose these days. But some of it I think is beautiful and it's just really cool. It just makes you feel a certain way when you read it that you don't get from a modern book. If you like, if I wrote a book that was in Lovecraftian style and submitted it to a modern critique group, they would be like, "What is this? This is passive. This is way too verbose. This is this and that."
It depends who it is. Because I prefer a longer sentence, really. Short sentences, like, you ever read Hemingway?
Love Hemingway.
Hemingway blows. It's like, oh, he said he's Old Man in the Sea. There were women on the beach and babies, and they were babies with their mothers on the beach. And near the beach, it's like, dude, we get it. There's a beach and women and babies. Move the fuck on. We get it. And consider using a sentence that reaches the end of the line, for God's sakes. Sorry, I really hate Hemingway.
I mean, from a classical prose perspective, besides like I just told you, like Lovecraft so far, I really like Ray Bradbury. I think Ray Bradbury is amazing.
You got boxing gloves, man. Nice. Oh, I've been married 33 years. You think I've never heard that before? Come on. I like David. I'm going to agree with you. Yeah. Anyway. Sorry.
I also am a huge fan of George Orwell. He's amazing too.
Yeah. I mean, I've only read like one or two of his books, but yeah, I agree. He was very good.
So what do I read? Honestly, I try to read all over the place. I read so science fiction, fantasy, and horror. I'm not trying to pinpoint myself on my rating. I like to cast a wide net in what I can write, or what I want to write. And so I do the same thing with reading. So I kind of just jump all over the place. So I like Neil Gaiman a lot, but he's very different than H.P. Lovecraft. But they're both great writers in my opinion. So yeah, I guess I'm not one of those that just goes down a singular path. I like to be surprised by things.
Yeah, that's probably best that you get more variety, so you're not just pigeonholed into one.
Absolutely. Yeah. Every now and then break out like a classic too. I mean, like a Mark Twain or Alexander Dumas, The Three Musketeers. Not the like condensed freaking Reader's Digest version, but the real version of that is actually really good. Yeah, he was drunk by the end of them is the problem. I'm commenting on a comment from John who says Hemingway only wrote 500 words a day according to scholars. He was nice to cats, so I will give him that. But,
oh, see, that's a minus for me. Why do we have the show, Ro? Do we agree on anything?
Oh, it's because we're not sitting next to each other. We'd be like punching each other the whole time. No, so David says the quote unquote rules say you might need to write 3 to 4 books in the same genre. So Tobias, you've written books in a couple of different genres, yeah?
Yeah, I'm trying not to jump all over the place and be one of those because I know that's detrimental. I know you should write in series too. So yeah, that's why I'm writing the trilogy. That gets my fantasy thing checked off, and then horror, I'm doing the same. Science fiction, the story I just submitted for this anthology is the first science fiction I've written, which I really enjoyed. So I'm probably going to write more science fiction as well. So I kind of agree with that. I think you should try to, stick to a genre a little bit at least.
I think the guest that Mike had on last night said, if I remember this correctly, she said horror really isn't a genre, right? Because anything can be horror. You can be writing in any genre and make it horror. It's just it's a thing that happens, right? It's not necessarily its own thing. Did I encapsulate that pretty much right, Mike?
Oh, that's what Pamela K. Kinney told us, and I quoted that to our guest last night. But yeah,
I heard
it was not originally from me. I'm not that smart.
Yeah. Well, we know that. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I think horror can be in anything, but when someone's people intentionally go read horror books and they're looking to be scared, so I think that it is kind of its own thing to a certain extent. But I like to mix horror with other genres a lot.
Yeah.
Like what some of my favorite things of all in its movies is Aliens. I love Aliens. Alien and Aliens. The first two are my favorites. But that's sci-fi horror to me.
Yeah.
And it's very much horror and it's very much sci-fi. But it's a beautiful blend of the two. And I think you can put horror in a lot of different genres, and it's wonderful.
Oh, you can go dark in fantasy real easy. I mean, when you think about it, it's a bunch of dudes in, medieval times running around with swords and stuff. And that can get dark in a hurry.
Yeah.
So the one thing I want to say, going back a little bit, for what you write, I think it kind of depends on how you're going to market yourself. If you're going to go to Comic-Cons, then I think having more series open so you have more entry points for people.
Yeah.
If you're going to, not go to Comic-Cons and just advertise on Amazon and say you can buy my entire series of 5 books, I think that is a better way to go than saying I have a standalone here, I have a sci-fi there, because are they necessarily going to follow you? So I think it kind of depends on how are you going to market your work as to what is the better way to go. If the thing is you want to make money, which, who wants to do that? I mean, we're writers for a reason.
Why would you want to make money?
So much more enjoyable spending it. Than no one ever.
So let's see. So your Grave Covenant, the sequel is coming out in May-ish for you?
Definitely May, because it's already been pushed back twice, maybe 3 times. So it's definitely coming out in May.
And do you have an idea for the horror book when that is coming out?
I'm not really sure on a date for that because I think I want to get book 3 done of the fantasy first, which is going to take a while. So I think, honestly, book 3 will probably be done by October, and I think the next horror book will be Q4 of this year.
Man, I like your goals, getting that much done that fast.
I used to have goals like that.
I just want to get them out of my face so I can move on to the next thing.
All right. Yeah, but then I don't think it works like that, though.
I'm going to publish 2 books this year, and I'm like, can I afford to publish a third one in the same year? So,
don't you know you're supposed to release a book every month?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'll get Chat GPT to help me, and I'll do that. And it'll be crap.
Right, formulaic, romance or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not a slight on romance. Don't get me wrong.
Yes, it is.
They're making money, and I'm not. So
True.
I actually have a romance duology I want to write too. But when I say romance, it's a sci-fi romance, and it's not what you would think. It has robots in it, and
I think they're making those in Japan now. Sorry.
The love interest in this one is like a robotic woman. Her head's kind of in an apparatus, and she has like spider legs. So it's a very weird sci-fi romance story. But it has a definite love angle to it, which is going to be fun.
Okay. So Tim has a question for you. Is there a pause after you finish a book, or do you leap right into the next project?
I mean, I go right into the next one because I'm already behind on it. So I pause in advance by being behind on it.
How long do you take to do your outline?
The outline is quick, like a few days, but the writing is not quick.
Okay, so what's the this will be my last question for you. What is the one thing that will cause you to procrastinate the most?
The one thing that will cause me.
The one thing that isn't family related.
I mean, beer's not good. because I'm an early morning writer, so I get up at 5 a.m. to write
Oh God. Okay.
before my day job. And so if I do like this,
You're a morning drinker.
then I don't get up till like 5:15, which is just unacceptable.
So you're another 15 minutes behind.
And that's just I'm just kidding. I'll probably miss that day if I do too much of this. So that does play a role in it because I love beer. Other than that, I don't really know of anything else that causes me to procrastinate. I think that's the main one.
Answer. I mean, beer is a good answer for a lot of questions.
Beer is the answer. Beer is the answer.
Right. Why did you get married? Oh, wait, no. So my last question for you is, what part of the process is the hardest or the least fun for you? Is it writing the first draft? Is it editing? Is it looking for sales that don't come?
What did you just say? There was some weird squiggly.
I said interviews with imbeciles.
I said waiting for sales that just don't come.
Oh.
You know, what's the hardest part for you?
I think honestly, so I think revision is hardest for me. First draft is tough, but I have a thing where it's like, once I get to the end of the book, I want to feel like it's kind of close to being done. I know that's crazy, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But
yes, very.
I don't like jumping back to the start again. That seems that's counterintuitive, you know. And then heaven forbid you have to do it another time, and then another time. Each time is less enjoyment for me.
It's safe to say then you're not one of those people who like finishes writing one day, next day you open up your Word document or whatever, you go back a couple pages, reread what you wrote, and then carry on.
Actually, you know what? That's actually what I'm thinking of switching to, because so I've kind of switched my process. Not to go on a big tangent here, but I used to just write like a tortoise, front to back, and then revise like a tortoise. But now I try to write like a hare, and then not revise anything until the whole first draft is done. That whole like word count, time yourself thing, which I despised at first. But I was like, I have to do something because otherwise this tortoise is going to die. So I decided to do the timer thing, and I was like, I'm actually making more progress. This is going faster. I like this. So I did that. I wrote all of Dragon's Apostle that way. But I was petrified when I was done. I was like, this thing is going to be shit when I went to revise it. And it wasn't quite as bad as I thought it was going to be. It needed a lot of work, more than my tortoise drafts normally do, but it wasn't total garbage. It wasn't total garbage. But I kind of still didn't like having that much work done to do after I finished the whole draft. So I've decided, and I got another author, I don't remember his name, some like thriller author, was like, the way I do it is I do the hair draft, timing yourself, and then the next day I edit that. And then I moved on and I do that. And once I get to the end, I have a pretty good manuscript. I have to do a revision after that, but it's pretty good, like at that point. So that's what I'm going to next. I'm going to try that process. I think that might work for me.
Yeah, I think the thing that I hate the most is when you're doing the revisions, right? You're reviewing it, editing it, whatever you want to call it, and you find something in it that means you have to go back to the beginning and find a character and change like everything for 10, 15 chapters to make it fit some damn thing you did toward the end that is absolutely imperative that it happens. but now you have to go back and retcon all that stuff. That's super annoying.
Sounds like a pantser problem.
I would never do that. That sounds like that's just like that would never happen.
That's why my latest book has taken so long to get here.
So I lied, by the way. I have one more question.
Oh, you bastard.
Like you didn't expect that. NaNoWriMo, are you a fan or not?
Wow, we've never asked that question before.
You know,
See? I'm thinking.
I've done it twice now, I think. I like it because it's just another thing to try to motivate you, which we all need that. I'll tell you what I don't like about it. National Novel Writing Month, right? Do this thing, and then you'll have a novel. Bullshit. Do this thing, and you'll have half a freaking novel.
And you'll have a hot mess.
Yeah, that's what I don't like about it, because it's only 50,000 words, and my novels are 100,000 words. So.
Yeah, but I think they're using, the cutoff, the generally accepted cutoff for the length that something must be to be considered a novel.
Right. But I guess I just really want it to be done at the end of the month, and it's not done, so that's a little frustrating.
Start in October.
Cheat. Yeah, exactly.
NaNoWriMos.
I think I should be doing that every month, though, in order to meet my self-imposed goals of my self-publisher.
If you did that, you wouldn't have enough money to, your wife would kill you for spending all your money on covers and editing and everything else.
True.
So there is that.
So I will tell you, for me, writing the first draft is by far the hardest part of everything. And I absolutely love editing. Because every time I change something, I'm like, you know what? I just made my story a little bit better. Let's change something else and make it a little bit better still. I love when I get 1 million comments from my editors. I just got the beta reader, gave me one back, and she's like, I am so sorry. There's like 100 comments in the first quarter of this, and then there's a lot less. And I'm like, can you make more comments throughout? I mean, I love editing. Editing is where you make the story good.
You're a sick young man, Michael.
Thank you for calling me young.
Well, compared to me, you are.
So
I do like seeing it get better and better. I just don't like rehashing it. I used to play music too. I used to play in a band, and it's the same thing with music. It's like I would be so excited writing songs with people, and we would play them. And I would just be so excited about them and love it and absolutely love it. And then we would just nitpick little parts and just change it and rehearse it, and then you hate it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the same thing with books. Is like I don't want to read my book 10 times. I want to read it twice and be good with it. But I don't want it to be that not good. So
the benefit of reading it 10 times is you remember more of it, so that when you write the sequel to it, all those little questions you have a better chance of knowing what the answer is rather than having to go look it up again. And all I got to say is thank God for the find function on Microsoft Word.
That's true.
Well, so I have to make up a Bible for every book that I do, and just like, okay, there's a name, who are they? And I have like a one sentence, like the one I'm like, Judoc - Jackass. I'm like, okay, I know who he is. But I have to have that for every book, so I know who the characters are, and then I can look back at the previous book. Who is this person? The daughter, one of the characters, they have a daughter. For the life of me, I can never remember her name. I'm like, is it Birgit? I have no idea. It starts with a B, and it's 2 syllables. There's a G in there and a T. And I'm like, I have no idea. Every single time I have to look it up. I know it's in chapter 5 of Becoming a Druid. So for the life of me, I cannot remember that. I keep forgetting to put it in my Bible. So,
but you still have to look it up in your Bible, right? Why not just look it up in the book?
Well, the Bible is like 2 pages.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough.
I can totally relate to that because I change. It's a short list of the characters in my trilogy, that have the same names that what I started with. I change their names. I don't know why I do this. I think it's self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Like I literally changed Meredith to Miranda. Why? Like there's many instances of this. And so I'm like, hold on, shit, is it Meredith or Miranda? And so I'll write it in like chapter 35. I'll just go with Meredith for now. I'll look it up later. I'm just like, and then later I'm in bed. I'm just like, shit, how many Mirandas are there? How many Merediths? Where are they? Where are the Merediths, the loose Merediths in my story? But I will say, if I have questions like that, I'm usually aware that like it's a question mark. I'm not sure, and I'll put those brackets around it so I can search for it later.
I highly recommend the comment tab on Microsoft Word. All right, hey, Tobias, I don't have one of those cool self-filling Thor mugs that you have. I'm empty.
I don't either, and all I have is this to show everyone.
All right, and if you want a copy of Grave Covenant, you can go to the scrolling thing at the bottom there to books2read.com. That's nice, especially if you're genre hopping. Having that's a good URL.
Yep. So Tobias, where's your next Comic-Con or event?
So I have some in the works. I applied to Tidewater Comic-Con, which is here in Virginia Beach, and actually the guy that runs it I know.
So I should see you there.
But I'm on the waiting list, and he's not. I don't know. We'll see. Are you going there?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
So
do you have a table there?
I believe I've paid for all my events for the year now. So yes.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't been accepted to that, but I'm on the wait list. I just followed up with them.
And I was kind of a little annoyed that MarsCon sent stuff out in March for January next year, reserve your table now.
Yeah.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Early.
Send it to me, will you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, but anyway, I will see you at Tidewater. That's in May, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So,
All
good.
right.
Hopefully,
I'm also doing an event in Fredericksburg that I've never done. It's like an independent authors festival or something. It's on the river. I forget the name, which river it is, but it's. Have you heard of that one?
Actually, last night, Sierra Medeiros was talking about it.
Like an author con type of thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to find what that one was because it's one I've never heard of before. Oh, here it is. Fredericksburg Independent Book Festival, Saturday, October 12th. So that one I have booked.
Nice.
What day is that again?
It's Saturday, October 12th.
October 12th. I'll have to look. I might try to fit that in. I don't think I'm in Cincinnati that week. I think it's the following week for Cincinnati. But so I might see you there too. I'm going to be like a bad dream.
Always have
to right four, so that's perfect.
Yep.
You fit right in there, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you for all the folks for coming to hang out with us again. Sorry to get you out of here so late. Tim, take good care. And for everybody else, we're going to wave awkwardly to the camera until Mike pushes the button.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
We just wave awkwardly.